Hey everyone, as we head into the holidays and as a lot of the folks in San Francisco are busy getting together our Game of the Year stuff to run next week, I want to make sure people didn't forget about this neat little game that just came out called The Novelist. It's developed by Kent Hudson, who is an ex-AAA game developer working on BioShock and some other games. It is about as far as you could get from working on a game like that. Instead, The Novelist is about a quaint little family that has taken a summer retreat in which, as you can imagine, the main character is a writer. He's trying to find a way to get over writer's block on his next book. They have a son, and he is married. And in The Novelist, you play a ghost. I think the game's narrative conceit of being a ghost is, I guess, lame might be putting too fine a point on it, but I think it allows a certain distance from the characters that maybe is detrimental to the story, but it's possible I'm speaking too soon because there appears to be an explanation for why this house has a ghost in it that maybe has some resonance that may pay off. I'm not sure, but up front I think it's kind of lame that the game has a ghost as an explanation for why you're getting around the house. So you can, as you can tell right now, you can jump around, you can attach yourself to any light fixtures that are in the game, but what you're trying to do is help this family make some decisions. So you can read the thoughts of people. Can't figure out some of the words in my book. You can also emerge, and you're trying to find these different clues that are scattered around the house. So when you find a clue, which kind of gets highlighted, you can tell whether things are readable. Dan, I looked into it, the guy at the literary register, said that pre-release ads do drive up pre-orders quite a bit. It's his job to sell ads, of course, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. I usually leave this kind of thing to the guys in the marketing department, so I'm a lot of my depth here. But I checked with them and they said the same thing. So it seems like the ads would make sense if the book is good. You don't want to oversell and underdeliver. I have to say this is the first time I've had a writer offer to pay for extra marketing. You sure about it? There aren't any refunds if the book tanks. You've got some drive though. Coming up with an idea like this, I'll give you that. Think about it and let me know. Also, if my voice sounds terrible, it's because I have a nasty cold that I am trying to get over. So you can, like I said, you can read the thoughts of folks. You can also get into their memories. So if I jump out here, at this point you're trying to follow the noises. You can hear like a little ringing, which lets you know that something has happened. And the memories you can't get caught because obviously they're happening in the past.
Don't joke like that.
And when I finish my book in December,
So I found 2 of 3, which means there's still a third one to be found. Here we go. Come on, buddy.
broke through the fog last night. I found my notebook and it was all right there. Scott takes Alice to the lake to feed the swans, and he's too self-absorbed to switch up his go-to move, and Sarah's there waiting to confront him. He ends up losing them both. It's simple, but it's a clean way to hit the past as anchor theme. I have no clue how I forgot that part, but it doesn't matter now. It's like a dam broke. I got the chapters to Paul on schedule, with enough time to do first-pass revisions. God, I'm glad that's over.
So basically what the novelist is trying to do is have you essentially make decisions for these characters. But these decisions aren't, about changing the world. They're not about aliens invading. They're actually about very mundane things, such as, should you share a bottle of wine with your wife tonight, or should you spend time with your kid playing a game, or should you spend time working on your book that you're trying to crack. And then if you find enough clues, you are actually given the option to make compromises. So we'll see if we can find some of that here. Let's see. So we already explored that room. Everyone's downstairs, so why don't we take some time to look here.
I'm gonna cut.
There's a lot of reading in the game, but there's also voice acting that goes along with it.
That Mom mentioned on the phone. Someone new? Are you trying to keep it a secret, or did it just slip your mind the last time we talked? Spill it. Things here are moving along, I guess. When we came up, I thought it would be great to have more dedicated time to paint, but I didn't realize it would be so isolating. I miss having more people around and having new ideas floating about. I got lucky in town last week, though. I found an artist co-op called Makeshift, and it seems really interesting. It's not too big, but there are lots of different types of art.
So the more that you look around, the more that you'll actually discover there are some really complicated relationships on display. In the sense that, part of the reason they came out to this house was not just for him to work on the book, but was also, their relationship is on the rocks. They're starting to talk about a divorce, even though they have not actually said it out loud. So these clues are actually, not clues about, some grand mystery. They're more, clues about what these characters want. What are their motivations?
Hi, Mom. Hey, Pumpkin.
I only met Rick once, at a family reunion that must have been, 15 years ago? Turns out he made his fortune by, get this, selling high-end pipes. The Sherlock Holmes kind, not the plumbing kind. He must have been a hell of an interesting guy. I mean, he found a niche and made his way in the world. You have to respect that. It makes me wonder, am I giving everything I have to this book, or am I leaving myself an out? It isn't announced yet. I could always pull the plug. I'd never get another advance again, sure, but there isn't a gun to my head. Unless I put one there. Metaphorically, of course. And what about that?
So once you found all the clues, then you can figure out, send Paul an example ad from the literary register. Excuse me. Via tab, then it pulls up, hey, here are the things you can still do in this chapter. So try and see if I can find some more things that are going on with Linda. Probably, I don't think I've read that yet. When your cousin Richard passed away last year, we discovered that his pipe business had done very well. He wasn't wealthy, but he was very comfortable. At the execution of his will, we were somewhat surprised to find that he wished to distribute his estate among all living blood relatives. He reserved the lion's share for his immediate family, as I'm sure you'll understand, but there was a portion allotted to you as well. Enclosed is a check for the full amount. I trust you will honor his memory by putting it to good use. Uncle Wayne. Huh.
What?
Ooh. So she just spotted me, but I don't think that has actually prompted her to recognize me, so I can still jump into her, check out this memory.
Is there something out there?
The entire world's out there.
So at least as far as I can tell, you are confined to this house, and then things begin to shift in the house, insofar as objects being in different areas. When you're in the memory state, mostly the lamps become shortcuts.
I knew we should have eaten something with the wine last night. My head is killing me. It would have been worse if Dan hadn't come down to help me finish it, though. I didn't expect to see him, but he does have a way of surprising people. I wish we'd had a full night together, but maybe we can do that soon. I'm glad we got even a little time to catch up. We only got through the first side of the record, but we talked about the studio and my new painting, which was nice. It's good to know he's at least trying.
Alright, so now I've got her memory allotted, and I think it's interesting. One of the things that I've really appreciated about games in 2013, whether we're talking about Gone Home or The Novelist or Papers, Please, among other games, is trying to, one of the things that that came up when I was talking to Jake Rodkin and Sean Van about The Walking Dead is the idea of empathy games. Essentially games that allow you to empathize with a situation that you cannot call your own. Sometimes that happens in extraordinary situations like The Walking Dead, and sometimes it happens in a familiar situation, or a familial situation like The Novelist. I think is interesting. Again, I think the fact that you're a ghost sort of hurts this game a little bit, but again, and hopefully I'll get a chance to show this before the...
I already played with it.
Before we get to the end of the chapter, sort of... The conceit is that there is a detective who has come to the house to try and figure out why the house constantly is being turned over and given to new owners. Part of the reason that his family is even able to afford it is the fact that it was so cheap. So I guess it's interesting that they're trying to find a way to explain the ghost, but man, that hinges a lot on that explanation in my mind. So I exit that memory. Okay, so I still need to find
Hey, Mommy.
Tommy's another clue for Tommy. There was something. There we go. So Tommy's left a lot of drawings around. He is actually a better drawer than even I am at his young age, which kind of bums me out. Drawing has never been something I've been particularly good at. One thing you can do is you can flicker these lights. So for example, if you need to try and get over to something that someone is blocking the way of, if you flicker, you can hopefully get them out of the way.
Can't beat me.
Okay, throw some gear in my painter bag and take it to the co-op. So that's something she would like to do. I looked at that. That was the inheritance check. I believe I was already. Yep, I was already in here. Looked at that. Okay, I just got to read Tommy's thoughts. Where are you, Tommy? Hey, buddy.
Where was I?
It's probably in his room. This is not his room. Nope. Bring my kite to the camp Mommy told me about. Okay, so now that we have all three clues, basically at the end of each chapter you're allowed to make a decision. And at the end of each chapter, that has an effect on the next chapter. So you're making these sort of subtle influences on the family. But, you know, obviously this is super different than something like Mass Effect or most games that have choices. You know, I talked about The Walking Dead earlier, but the choices in that game are, you know, there are sort of minor choices. You know, some of the stuff that happens in dialogue where, you know, a character says, like, oh, I'll remember that. But, you know, a lot of the big choices you remember are people living or dying, or how you choose to let someone end their life, or whether you interfere with that or participate in that. And that's honestly how most games handle their choices, whereas in The Novelist you have, you know, pulling an example ad, or allowing Linda to take her gear and go to the co-op, or choosing for Tommy to bring his kite to that camp that his mom told him about. In the first chapter, I chose to have Dan find a piece of, it was like, I guess like a notebook that had some good ideas for his new novel that allowed him to make some progress. And because I found all the clues, I was able to make a compromise with Linda about a bottle of wine. So she finished most of it, but I found time to go down and hang out with her, and it meant that Tommy was ignored as a result. So I'm going to let Tommy be the one that, I guess, wins out this chapter. That's probably not the way to phrase it. So here's his kite. Selecting the kite will choose Tommy's resolution for this chapter. Dan and Linda will be disappointed. However, to discover Dan or Linda's desired outcome and having spooked them, you'll be able to find a compromise with one of them in the next chapter. Press escape to continue playing. So we're going to choose that one. Because, you know, the kid needs a little love, too. So at this point, we're now in like a past version of the house. And this is where you can discover more about the house. So from the desk of Harold Baxter. Now certain there's something strange with the light here. It must be those windows. I was reviewing old deeds in the living area and saw some sort of flash of light out of the corner of my eye. I would assume this elevation would put the ocean too far away for the sun to reflect off a wave, but perhaps not. I looked, but there was nothing except a strange shimmer, like heat above the asphalt of a hot rod. It dissipated almost immediately. Perhaps some concentration of the light caused it. But on to work. Among cataloging possible options for the property, I owe Mr. Lowry a report by the 24th. So there's not like a count to figure out how many are in these sections of the game. And, you know, if they're making this a central part of each chapter, I have to assume there's some payoff, and I'm really hoping that it's not just that the husband, the novelist, is playing out different ways his life could have gone, in ways of finding a compromise that doesn't exist because life is complicated and there are always small choices we make that have large ramifications. I mean, obviously I know that's the larger theme of this game, is that we often don't think about the everyday choices that have bigger impacts, but I hope it's not something where the husband is just living out these weird fantasies. Wait, I didn't actually read that. I reached a decision on how to proceed. It came to me this morning as I stood in the conservatory admiring the beauty of the forest. I hadn't begun my work yet and was thinking of nothing in particular when an idea came into my head fully formed. I was surprised it appeared with such clarity, but it's not unheard of for the mind to ponder a question in the subconscious. As for the idea, it was quite simple. I will buy the house myself. The last chapter, all I found were two options. So what happens here is that you can find compromises. I'm not sure if compromises mean that, like, if you just try and compromise everything, that no one will be happy. It's not super clear on how those things are going to play out. So, obviously I'm letting Tommy take his kite, which means Tommy, I guess, wins the chapter. But I can compromise with Dan and Linda. I just have to choose which one. I feel like if Dan doesn't figure out this book, then this whole thing is for naught. But is that just me as the guy and also a husband projecting onto the game that I want him to see this through, especially as someone that kind of thinks about writing a book eventually and thinks about all of the horrible, crippling fears that go into writer's block? And am I then just ignoring Linda because I can less empathize with her situation? And am I not able to make a choice because I haven't eaten lunch yet and I'm really, really hungry? And I probably should have done that before recording this video. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to go with the compromise because that just seems like you need to make compromises in life. It can't just be one way or the other. I went with Dan the first time around. I guess I'll go... I feel like Dan needs that book to succeed. I don't want it to be at the expense of Linda, though, but... okay, so I need to send Paul an example and from the literary register. Okay. So now we'll see how these decisions play out, because I will go over and talk to... Oh, okay. Whisper the choice to Dan. Alright, Dan, here you go. This is what I have chosen for you. You don't get to live your life. I am living your life for you. That sounds great. Man, I can totally sympathize with the idea of saying things out loud so that you actually do them. Ooh, I do that all the time. Man. Oh, that makes me feel shitty. That makes me feel really shitty. And I have a feeling that stuff like that only continues to feel more like that as this game goes on. I'm reluctant to show too much more because obviously as a game it's completely designed around learning what happens to this family. I guess, yeah, one of the things that maybe was not apparent in this bit was that Tommy is struggling academically. Part of the reasons they came to this cabin was to hopefully allow him to concentrate on catching up so that he will do okay in the upcoming school year. But yeah, man, I mean, this game is kind of depressing. Not to put too fine a point on it, but it kind of bums you out about your own life, and I found already playing the game that it has caused me to reflect, not like that I'm not happy with my life, and also not to get too deep into my own feelings on my life in this quick look, but I think it says, as much as the ghost angle puts me off, that this game is a success in a way, in that it is taught me or put me in a position to maybe reflect on some of the everyday decisions I make about how to spend my time, and whether those are the right ones, and whether I'm finding the right balance. And I think that's really cool that a game can do that. I think obviously, depending on your own situation, it's going to change whether that is something you can do in the context of this game. But I think we can all find ways to empathize with the idea that there are decisions we make every day about how we choose to spend our time, and how often have we found ourselves at the end of the day and gone, man, nothing happened today. Maybe that will change tomorrow, and not necessarily making decisions that reflect those choices, even if we make them out loud. So yeah, it's interesting, all of that heaviness aside, I'm curious to see how this plays out for the characters. I'm curious to see how much my decisions are impacting sort of like the overall outcome, because obviously that seems to be a lot of what this game is about, and I'm really curious to see how the ghost angle plays out, if it does at all, and to see if they try and find a way to make that make more sense in the context of the game. I think this game would be a true success if not only do you have the decisions of the family playing out, but that the reason the player character exists is also tied thematically into that somehow. So how that happens, or if that happens, is going to be something for me to check out for myself. But that is The Novelist. It is available now on PC and Mac on Steam. Yeah, seems like a game that could be a real bummer. That's The Novelist. Out now. Talk to you guys later.